This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Thursday, May 8th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
3 former Memphis, Tennessee officers have been acquitted in the 2023 fatal beating of Tyre Nichols. I'm Donna Warder.
Black smoke poured out from the Sistine Chapel chimney, indicating no pope has been elected. I'm Ed Donahue.
The U.S. Health Department is planning to analyze data from autistic Medicare and Medicaid enrollees. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
President Trump has designated Thursday as a time for the nation to celebrate victory in World War II. Sagar Magani, Washington.
Reports of increased spying on Greenland by the U.S. and Danish officials now responding. I'm Clayton Neville.
The NHL team in Salt Lake City is now known as the Utah Mammoth. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
All ahead on America in the Morning. A verdict has been reached in the trial of 3 former Memphis police officers charged in the fatal beating of a man who fled a traffic stop. Correspondent Donna Warder has the outcome.
3 former Memphis, Tennessee officers have been acquitted of state charges in the 2023 fatal beating of Tyre Nichols.
Count 1, second-degree murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Tadarius Bean, not guilty. Count 1. We, the jury, find the defendant, Demetrius Haley, not guilty. Count 1. We, the jury, find the defendant, Justice Smith, not guilty.
The officers were also acquitted of aggravated assault, aggravated kidnapping, and related offenses. Nichols fled the scene after being yanked out of his car, pepper sprayed, and hit with a taser. 5 officers caught up with him and punched, kicked, and beat him with a police baton. Nichols died 3 days later. 2 officers agreed to plead guilty to state charges. They and the 3 officers acquitted of state offenses still face sentencing in federal court. I'm Donna Warder.
Correspondent Bob Brown reports there's been last-minute change by the Trump administration in their nominee for U.S. Surgeon General.
A day before facing a Senate confirmation hearing, the Trump administration pulling the plug on Dr. Jeanette Nishanwat's nomination to be the next Surgeon General. Instead, Dr. Casey Means, an holistic medicine doctor, appears to be more aligned with the administration's Make America Healthy Again movement, if confirmed. Dr. Means appearing on the Joe Rogan podcast about 6 months ago.
Parents don't want their kids getting sick. We don't want to be sick. We don't want to see our parents dying of Alzheimer's and cancer and all of these diseases. There is this pervasive thread that Americans are lazy and they don't want to be healthy. I was indoctrinated with that message as a medical student and as a surgical resident. It's not true. People want to be healthy. There's a huge system rigged against them.
Her brother, Callie Means, is White House health advisor. Means, attending Stanford Medical School, but says she dropped out of her residency when she became skeptical of the healthcare system. Nishanwat is a sister-in-law of National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, who was recently fired by President Trump after a journalist received access to a messaging app group chat concerning top-secret military strikes. I'm Bob Brown.
The first vote by the Conclave for the new pope has gone up in smoke. Correspondent Ed Donahue has details.
Black smoke poured out from the Sistine Chapel chimney, indicating no pope has been elected. Crowds gathered to get a glimpse of the chimney. This was the first vote. The cardinals are sequestered, no cell phones. They're cut off from all communication until a new pope is selected. Before entering the Sistine Chapel, Cardinal Mario Zanari preached patience. Among those in St. Peter's Square is Samaditra Sarka, who hopes the next pope is Asian or a person of color.
I'm not a Catholic, but Pope Francis did a lot for other communities, other minorities, and I feel like when you open the doors for other people to come in, it just inspires others to enter the fold, and it inspires more peace and harmony in the world.
For much of the past century, it has taken between 3 and 14 ballots to find a pope. I'm Ed Donahue.
RFK on autism, when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning, watching some thunderstorms develop this Thursday in the Northeast. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
A large and intensifying storm centered in southern Canada heads toward the eastern Great Lakes and interior Northeast today, meaning increasing coverage of showers and thunderstorms across a wide area from New York and Pennsylvania through the Ohio Valley, marking the end of yesterday's brief dry patch for many between storms after the earlier part of this month brought days of wet weather. Now this next storm will bring another round of slow-moving precipitation as the organizing disturbance tracks only slowly along the east coast. This will mean that once rain gets underway toward the coast by the late afternoon hours, off and on showers, periods of steady and perhaps heavy rain, even a thunder risk in spots will continue into the start of the weekend. To the south of there, the easternmost of two severe weather zones for today brings the risk for hail and localized damaging wind gusts up to 65 miles per hour to western and central Virginia and points south and west through the northern half of Mississippi for the afternoon and evening hours before storms start to wind down. However, there may be at least an afternoon storm for most of the southeast outside of parts of eastern Virginia and North Carolina as a wave of atmospheric energy encounters a warm and moist air mass. Speaking of warmth, today brings more of it to the Dakotas and eastern Montana, where highs may reach the 80s before the warmth spreads through the Central Plains into Saturday. However, well to the south of there, the second zone with a risk for severe weather, again in the form of hail and strong winds, sets up in Texas this afternoon and through tonight near and along the Mexican border. The west looks mostly dry today as warmth builds away from the coast. In Buffalo, New York, a brief morning shower gives way to cool conditions with some sun, the high 55. For Salt Lake City, the warming trend continues under sunshine with a high of 80. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Don't forget you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announces plans to access health agency data as part of his research into autism. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports.
The U.S. Health Department is planning to analyze data from autistic Medicare and Medicaid enrollees. That's according to an announcement from Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. In April, he said he wanted to share research about autism.
We're going to follow the science no matter what it says, and we will have some of the answers by September.
The data sharing program will involve an agreement between the government's health research arm, the National Institutes of Health, and the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. The latter has access to claims data from nearly 150 million Americans across the country. U.S. Health and Human Services says some of the ways the data will be used includes autism diagnosis trends and what access to care looks like based on demographics and geography. Opponents say this isn't the kind of data needed to answer questions about autism's causes. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
Correspondent Sagar Meghani has details on President Trump declaring Thursday as a day for Americans to celebrate victory in World War II.
President Trump has designated Thursday as a time for the nation to celebrate victory in World War II. May 8, 1945, Nazi Germany surrendered to Allied forces, including Winston Churchill and the British.
The German war is therefore at an end.
80 years later,
all over the globe, our World War II allies are celebrating this week.
From Paris to Moscow, President Trump says the U.S. has never joined in, while other nations take credit.
The victory was mostly accomplished because of us, whether you like it or not.
He says May 8th will now be Victory Day for World War II, while Victory Day for World War I will be November 11th. That's already Veterans Day. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
When we return on America in the Morning, Disney's new theme park after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Thanks for listening. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, always putting clients' interests first. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. CNBC's Jessica Ettinger back with Thursday Business.
Wall Street opens this morning after a winning day for stocks yesterday. The Dow popping 280 points. The Fed held interest rates steady. And Disney shares were what led that Dow higher. They soared 10% on a strong quarter and a new theme park to be built in Abu Dhabi.
About 500 million people that are income qualified, meaning they can afford to visit one of our parks, live within a 4-hour plane trip When you consider Abu Dhabi, they love Disney. This is the right place. By the time it opens will be the right time. And this is really a momentous occasion for the Walt Disney Company.
Disney CEO Bob Iger on CNBC. Iger says it takes about 2 years to design a theme park and then 5 years to build it. Investors were heartened, too, by word that government officials from the U.S. and China will meet in Switzerland this weekend with trade on the table.
We would not get overly obsessed with the daily news flow because it's been exceptionally erratic. Some days the negotiations are on, some days the negotiations are off. We would not try to trade this market on a hour-by-hour basis because we think it's virtually impossible.
Matrix Assets' David Katz on CNBC. NVIDIA shares popped 3% yesterday on a report that President Trump will end restrictions on chip shipments to China. Google parent Alphabet shares dropped 7%. Apple with a statement that AI will replace old-line search engines like Google. Google's been the default search engine on Apple products for a long time. Google pays Apple a lot of money for that. Cryptocurrency and Washington, D.C. have become fast friends, and there has been bipartisan talk about curbing pay-for-play schemes where anybody can buy a coin issued by any lawmaker and perhaps have influence over that lawmaker.
Trump announced that those who have bought the most of his meme coin would be invited to a dinner with him. CNBC got an exclusive first look at a new bill from Congressman Richie Torres, who's introducing legislation to prevent government officials, including lawmakers, from benefiting from meme coins and other digital assets. Senators Jeff Merkley and Chuck Schumer also introduced legislation to prevent Trump from profiting off of crypto. In a statement, Merkley said that Trump has made it easy for those who want to influence him to enrich him personally.
CNBC's Emily Wilkins in Washington. The IRS has cut nearly a third of its tax auditors in the Doge purge. This is according to the Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration. Danish jewelry brand Pandora warning of significant tariff-fueled prices. Much of its jewelry comes from Asia. On today's watch list, we get earnings from Anheuser-Busch, Warner Brothers Discovery, Paramount, and Lyft.
Thank you, CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. Leaders in Denmark are responding to reports of increased spying on Greenland by the United States. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
The Wall Street Journal reports that high-ranking U.S. officials issued a collection emphasis message to heads of intelligence agencies surrounding Greenland. Now, President Trump has said a number of times that he would like to acquire that island, but officials from both there and Denmark say that won't happen and that it's not for sale.
We do not appreciate the tone in which it's being delivered. This is not how you speak to your close allies.
Recent comments by Danish Foreign Minister Lars Rasmussen.
We, Denmark and Greenland, are very much open to discussing this with you with an open mind.
Now, according to the New York Times report, U.S. agencies were told to learn more about Greenland's independence and attitudes toward America. In response to the report, Rasmussen said he summoned the acting U.S. ambassador about the potential spying on Greenland. I'm Clayton Neville.
When we return on America in the Morning, new accuser of former movie mogul Harvey Weinstein when America in the Morning continues after these messages. I'm John Trout. You're with America in the Morning. The retrial of Harvey Weinstein saw testimony from a new accuser. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
Kaya Sikola was not part of the former movie mogul's 2020 trial, but after that conviction was overturned and the case was sent back for retrial, prosecutors added a charge based on her claim. Sikola did not look at Weinstein as she walked past in a Manhattan courtroom, but he watched her testimony. 2 other women are also testifying against him. The 73-year-old has pleaded not guilty to the charges. His lawyers maintain his encounters with women were consensual. Sikola sued Weinstein in civil court. Prosecutors have said she received $3.5 million in compensation. Julie Walker, New York.
Utah's professional hockey team, as correspondent Gethin Coolball reports, finally has a new name.
The NHL team in Salt Lake City is now known as the Utah Mammoth. Owners Ryan and Ashley Smith unveiled the franchise's permanent name Wednesday after more than a year of fan input and voting. Mammoth replaces the inaugural season placeholder name Utah Hockey Club, which was also one of 3 finalists, along with Outlaws. Yeti was taken out of consideration when the cooler company bearing that name could not come to a copyright agreement. The Mammoth are maintaining the same black, light blue, and white color scheme and the road jerseys with Utah diagonally down the front. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
America in the Morning for Thursday, May 8th, 2025 is produced by Alexander Hinton. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
A verdict in the state case against officers involved in the death of Tyre Nichols. I'm Clayton Neville.
President Biden sits down for his first broadcast interview since losing last year's presidential election. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
The Federal Reserve has again left its key interest rate unchanged. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Google identifies new spyware linked to Russia. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
Actor Michael Pitt is accused of sexually assaulting his ex-girlfriend, Julie Walker, New York.
Back after these messages. You're with America in the Morning. A couple areas of the nation are in for potential severe weather today. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Following a relative lull in severe weather yesterday, thanks to the most potent storms staying offshore and away from the Gulf Coast, today does look to be more active in terms of impactful thunderstorms. In fact, AccuWeather severe weather experts say that 2 separate areas will emerge where storms may become rather potent. The western area spans essentially the entire length of the Texas-Mexico border and into the southernmost counties of New Mexico, also including the westernmost extent of I-20 and the southern suburbs of San Antonio, where storms from this afternoon through tonight will be capable of producing hail and damaging winds, along with downpours that may be intense enough to produce flooding. Farther to the east, similar threats will exist this afternoon and evening from northern Mississippi through central Virginia and as far to the north as southeastern Kentucky, where hail and strong winds will again be possible within any thunderstorm, but the flood threat will be more localized. Between these 2 zones, showers and more general thunderstorms will be most likely along the rest of the Texas Gulf Coast, with a stray thunderstorm as far inland as Houston, and some drenching storms from southern Louisiana into the western part of the Florida Panhandle as a disturbance tracks across the south. This feature will mean the risk for at least a spotty afternoon thunderstorm across just about all of the southeast today. To the north of there, a more energetic storm brings the return of showers and storms for the mid-Atlantic and parts of the northeast, especially from central and southern New York, south and west. Most of New England misses out on the rain through the daylight hours, but places from Ohio southward do get into wet weather. Outside of a stray afternoon storm as well from eastern Oklahoma and Kansas through Missouri and Arkansas, most other places look dry as the northern plains and the west warm up. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
We trust you'll follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. 3 of the officers charged in the death of Tyre Nichols 2 years ago in Memphis are acquitted of all state charges. Correspondent Clayton Neville has details.
The officers were convicted of federal charges last year, but this week a state jury found Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, and Justin Smith not guilty on charges of second-degree murder, aggravated assault, 2 counts of aggravated kidnapping, and official misconduct and official oppression. 2 other former officers plan to plead guilty to state charges and testified against their former colleagues in court.
Tyre Nichols is dead and deserves to be alive. And that is a tragedy.
Shelby County, Tennessee District Attorney Steve Mulroy told reporters he thought the state put on a solid case.
It's my hope that the public understands that this is part of the system and that our office will continue to push for accountability for everybody who violates the law, including if not especially, those who are sworn to uphold it.
The case surrounds police body cam footage that caused outrage after Tyre Nichols died days after being kicked and beaten by police during a traffic stop.
Watch out! Watch out! Give us your hands! Give us your hands! Give us your hands! Same location.
Mulroy said the verdict is tough for the family and community to digest.
It's hard for me to understand, as I'm sure it's hard for the public to understand, or many in the public anyway, who watched that video, who heard the testimony, who heard the compelling arguments of trial counsel. It's hard for us to imagine how someone could say that none of the defendants were guilty of any of the charges. I personally think any fair-minded person who watches the video would come to the conclusion that everybody there had some responsibility for Tyre Nichols' death.
The jury deliberated for 9 hours before returning its verdict. The trial started late last month. I'm Clayton Neville.
Former President Joe Biden sits down for a one-on-one interview on broadcast TV. From Washington, our John Stolnis reports.
BBC reporter Nick Robinson had the distinction of speaking with the former president, and after being asked about President Trump's first 100 days in office, Biden declared he left Trump a country that was in great shape.
Our economy was roaring. We were moving in a direction where the stock market was way up. We're in a situation where we were expanding our influence around the world in a positive way, increasing trade.
When asked if he has any regrets about the timing of leaving the presidential race last summer, Biden said he has none.
I don't think it would have mattered. We left at a time when we had a good candidate. She was fully funded. And what happened was I had become what we had set out to do. No one thought we could do. And become so successful in our agenda, it was hard to say, now I'm going to stop now.
The former president says President Trump's rhetoric since taking over as president leaves much to be desired.
I found it sort of beneath America, the way that took place. And the way we talk about now that, it's just the Gulf of America. Maybe we're going to have to take back Panama. Maybe we need to acquire Greenland. Maybe Canada should be. What the hell's going on here? What president ever talks like that?
Biden was asked if he believes the U.S. and the world are facing the greatest threat to democracy since the end of World War II.
Yes, I do.
And on the Ukraine war, Biden fights back against those who want to see the U.S. remove their influence from European conflicts.
It is modern-day appeasement. Look, listen to what Putin said when he talked about going from Kyiv into Ukraine. And anybody thinks he's going to stop is just foolish.
Biden will appear with First Lady Jill Biden on The View later today, and the media blitz comes as multiple books painting a negative picture of the Biden presidency are set to be released later this month. John Stolnis, Washington.
The White House nominates a doctor of holistic medicine to be the next Surgeon General. Here's Correspondent Donna Warder with details.
The White House has nominated Dr. Casey Means as Surgeon General. She's a wellness influencer with close ties to Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. The nomination comes after the White House earlier Wednesday withdrew the name of Fox contributor Dr. Jeanette Nesheiwat a day before she was to appear before a Senate committee for her confirmation hearing. Nesheiwat recently has come under criticism from Laura Loomer, a far-right ally of Trump who was instrumental in ousting several members of the president's National Security Council. Dr. Means is author of the New York Times bestseller Good Energy, The Surprising Connection Between Metabolism and Limitless Health. In a statement, the White House says Means will work closely with Kennedy to help reverse the chronic disease epidemic and ensure great health in the future. Donna Warder, Washington.
Among the stories we're covering next, new travel restrictions for U.S. flyers, and from Florida, fatal alligator attack. Those stories and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. You're with America in the Morning. I'm John Trout. Despite concern, implementation of the new Real ID travel restrictions went off without any major travel disruptions. Here's Correspondent Ed Donahue.
William Martin was flying out of Oakland, California.
There was absolutely no problem today. I have a passport and it went fine. I don't have the Real ID, but the passport worked great.
Real ID is a license or card the Department of Homeland Security says is a more secure form of identification. People like Martin and Susie Roberts are still allowed to fly without one.
They looked at my license. They said, here, take this piece of paper, call the DMV, make an appointment. As I'm going through, they're just going to do extra security.
81% of travelers already have Real IDs, but those who don't have it, in Chicago, a Real ID supercenter is open for walk-in appointments, while in California and elsewhere, extended hours are in place for the crush of appointments. I'm Ed Donahue.
Interest rates. Correspondent Sagar Magani reports the Federal Reserve has made its decision.
The Federal Reserve has again left its key interest rate unchanged, saying President Trump's trade policies are creating uncertainty and economic risks. After cutting it 3 straight times last year, the Fed has now kept the benchmark rate the same for a third meeting in a row, with an unusual double warning.
The risks of higher unemployment and higher inflation appear to have risen.
Chair Jerome Powell says uncertainty over the tariffs have put the Fed in a tough spot.
Really not at all clear what it is we should do.
And at a news conference repeatedly said keeping the current rate makes the most sense while tracking the tariffs' economic impacts.
Wait and see and watch.
That could lead to more conflict with President Trump, who's repeatedly urged the Fed to cut rates.
Doesn't affect our doing our job at all.
Many economists still expect 2 or 3 cuts this year. Sagar Magani, Washington.
A woman in Florida has died in a fatal alligator attack. Correspondent Haya Panjwani has the story.
An alligator killed a Florida woman after tipping over a canoe she and her husband were paddling. Investigators say it appeared to be an accidental encounter. Robert Young from the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission.
We do have an eyewitness, and it sounds like the canoe drifted over on top of the alligator, so it seems to be a surprise. Or the alligator was startled.
Investigators say that the couple was canoeing in about 2.5 feet of water when they came up on a large alligator. The animal thrashed suddenly, tipping over the canoe and sending both people into the water. Witnesses told investigators the husband tried to fight off the animal, but was unsuccessful. Young says alligator encounters with humans are more common in the spring mating season when they're most active.
While alligator attacks resulting in fatalities are extremely rare, this tragedy serves as a somber reminder of the powerful wildlife that share our natural spaces.
Audio courtesy of WTVT. I'm Haya Panjwani.
Update from Vatican City, where correspondent Tricia Thomas reports black smoke signaled that a pope has yet to be chosen.
After a surprisingly long wait, we finally had black smoke coming from the chimney above the Sistine Chapel. That means that no new pope has been elected. The 133 cardinal electors went into the Sistine Chapel. They made an oath of secrecy, each one putting their hand on the gospel, and then started in with the rounds of voting. After the first round, apparently there was no one person who got the 89 votes needed to become pope. That's why we saw the black smoke. The cardinals will now go back to the Santa Marta residence inside the Vatican walls, where they're being sequestered. They cannot use internet. They cannot use their cell phone. A jamming system has been set up to block all of that. The only way we will know if they have chosen a new pope is if we see white smoke coming out of that chimney above the Sistine Chapel. Tricia Thomas at the Vatican.
Syria's new president says there are indirect talks through mediators to calm relations with Israel. Correspondent Jennifer King has that.
At a news conference in Paris, Syrian leader Ahmad el-Sharaa says mediators are talking with Israel to prevent hostilities from escalating. El-Sharaa took power in December after his Islamist group HTS led the offensive that toppled the Bashar Assad regime. He spoke to reporters after a meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron on his first trip to Europe since taking office. Regarding negotiations with Israel, he said, there are indirect talks to calm down the situation so they don't go out of control. El-Sharaa also asked that all of the sanctions imposed during Assad's regime be lifted. Israel moved troops into Syrian border regions to create a so-called buffer zone shortly after Assad was toppled, and last week carried out a series of airstrikes, saying it aims to protect members of Syria's Druze minority. Recent clashes between fighters loyal to al-Shura and those from the Druze sect have left nearly 100 people dead, while more than 1,000 people have died in fighting between the majority Sunnis and the Alawite community, with many civilians slain. I'm Jennifer King.
Google has identified a group of Russian-based hackers. Tech reporter Chuck Palm says this is the crew that may be responsible for new malware attacks.
Google announced yesterday they have identified a new malware called Lost Keys, and they've tied it to the Russian-based hacking group Cold River, which is capable of stealing your files and sending that information to the attackers. Cold River is a code name that's used to track the hack campaigns that were thought to have ties to Russia's Federal Security Service and is primarily known for stealing credentials from high-profile targets, especially with those that are within the NATO organizations and NGOs with links to journalists, think tanks, and unnamed individuals connected to the Ukraine. The Russian embassy in Washington apparently did not respond to a request for comment from Reuters. Wesley Shields, a researcher with Google Threat Intelligence Group, said that the malware marks a new development in the toolset of Cold River. Other Cold River high-profile campaigns have included targeting 3 nuclear research laboratories and the publishing of private emails of former British spy master Richard Dearlove. For more, find me at chuckpalm.com.
With a look at sports this Thursday morning, here's Robert Workman.
NBA Conference semifinals in the East, the Knicks staged another big rally, coming back from down 20 to trip the Celtics 91-90 to take a 2-0 lead in their Eastern Conference semifinal, both wins coming in Boston. And for the second straight game, Mikal Bridges iced it with a late steal. Coach Tom Thibodeau.
That's the playoffs. You got to keep fighting. Every possession matters, and you got to play all 48 minutes.
Game 3 is Saturday in New York. In the West, the Thunder rolled over the Nuggets 149-106, the first win for a home team in the second round this year, and they made sure of it early. Denver hit the first bucket of the game, but OKC led by 24 by the end of the first quarter and by as many as 49. 8 players scored in double figures, led by the NBA's best, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He had 34 in 30 minutes. The series moves to Denver, tied 1-1. Second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs in the East, the Maple Leafs shaded the Panthers 4-3 to go up 2-0 in that best of 7. Anton Lundell got Florida even 5 minutes into the third, but just 17 seconds later, Mitch Marner untied it with what turned out to be the winner. Out west, the Stars edged the Jets 3-2 to take Game 1 in Winnipeg. All of the scoring coming in the second period, and all of the Dallas goals courtesy of Mikko Rantanen, his second straight hat trick. Baseball, Jorge Soler's bases-clearing double in the bottom of the ninth lifted the Angels over the Blue Jays 5-4. Tigers topped the Rockies 8-6 in 10 innings for manager A.J. Hinch's 900th career win. Dylan Cease held the Yankees hitless into the 7th, but Cody Bellinger broke that up with a home run, and New York went on to nip the Padres 4-3 in 10. Philly shut out the Rays 7-0. Christopher Sanchez and Taijuan Walker combined on a 2-hit gem. Sonny Gray in the skies tossed a 4-hitter as the Cardinals blanked the Pirates 5-0. That's Thursday Sports.
When we return on America in the Morning, bold new plans from the House of Mouse after these messages. Welcome back, here with America in the Morning. Correspondent Julie Walker reports a Boardwalk Empire actor is charged with sex abuse, assault of an ex-girlfriend.
Actor Michael Pitt is accused of sexually assaulting his ex-girlfriend, choking her and attacking her with a cinder block and a piece of lumber at his home in Brooklyn, New York. He's known for roles on Dawson's Creek and as Jimmy Dormady on HBO's Boardwalk Empire.
Jimmy Dormady, Al Capone. You guys gonna get into the liquor business too?
The 44-year-old was indicted Friday and pled not guilty. He's out on $100,000 bail. The indictment cites 4 incidents between 2020 and 2021. Pitt's lawyer says he already has exonerating evidence and expected the case to be dismissed. Julie Walker, New York.
The Walt Disney Company is adding a new theme park to its offerings. Correspondent Kevin Carr has details.
On Wednesday, the Walt Disney Company made its plans public for a new theme park. Disney CEO Bob Iger led the announcement in a promotional video released on the company's website.
Today, we celebrate another thrilling moment, the creation of a spectacular new Disney theme park resort coming to Abu Dhabi.
This will be the 7th Disney park and the first ever in the Middle East. It will be located on Yas Island, which is the home to an entertainment complex that includes other attractions like Warner Brothers World Abu Dhabi, Ferrari World, and SeaWorld Abu Dhabi. Disney will work with Miral, a company in the United Arab Emirates that creates theme parks. Group CEO of Miral, Mohammed Abdallah Al-Zabi, talked about locating the park on Yas Island.
Bringing a Disney theme park resort to Yas Island, Abu Dhabi, marks a historic milestone in our journey as a global family destination.
Miral will fully develop and build the park, focusing on technology and immersive user experiences. The designs released this week feature a spiraling crystal castle at its center, anchored around a waterfront area. Chairman of Disney Experiences, Josh D'Amaro, emphasized the high level of technology that will be included in the attractions.
Our resort in Abu Dhabi will be the most advanced and interactive destination in our entire portfolio.
An opening date for Disney Abu Dhabi has yet to be announced. I'm Kevin Carr.
And that's our show for today, Thursday, May 8th, 2025. America in the Morning is produced by Alexander Hinson. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.